So have you ever gotten a bunch of panels on only to find out every single one has oil canning in it? Well, as a metal roofing contractor myself, I know all too well how much of a pain in the ass this is.
Jackass!
But rest assured, I have found a few ways to help fix it. So in this video, I will show you 5 ways to help iron out some of these wrinkles, as well as some of the stress that actually goes along with it. So to start, let me show you why choosing the right thickness of metal is one of the easiest ways you can help avoid oil canning. So for example, go and get yourself a paper plate, fill it up with food, and then try eating off of it without spilling anything. And then now go get a ceramic plate and do the same thing. Exactly. Let me show you how exactly it applies to oil canning. A softer, thinner metal will be more flimsy than a thicker piece of material. It's kind of common sense, but this is why I always use 24 gauge metal or thicker for all of my panels. Reason being, it will retain its shape better across the inconsistencies you may find in plywood sheathing. But here's the thing, fixing this is only half the battle. Next, I'll show you why picking the right profile is also very important. So try this, take a flat piece of sheet metal, let it hang off the end of your bench, and then put your freshly poured morning brew on it and see what happens. Yeah, bye-bye brew. Okay, so now do the exact same thing, but bend a 90-degree flange on either side of the flat piece of metal. Guess what? Coffee intact, and so is my mood. Okay, so keeping that in mind, let me show you how it applies. So a standing seam has a very wide, flat surface, which is always highly susceptible to oil canning. So what a manufacturer can do is add bends to the flat part to increase the strength, just like we did to avoid spilling our coffee earlier. These are called striations. Okay, so now that you have the right panel, here is what you can do next. So you know when you're tightening the screws on an electrical outlet cover and you give it that one last extra turn and then crack? Happens every freaking time to me. Well, same is for when installing standing seam. So if you're over tightening the screws when installing the clips, the drill has enough force to actually distort the metal panel. So when you're installing these panels, just make sure you're paying attention to how much downward pressure is being applied to the seam that you're working on. Which brings us to our next solution, proper installation procedures. All right, so let's put it this way. You ever try putting something together from IKEA without using the directions? Yeah, I know you did, Mark. I know. So chances are you're going to miss a step. And that table you just put together can barely hold up a frickin' glass of water. Oh, and also IKEA never gives that many extra screws, just saying. So you know you're screwed at that point.
IKEA doesn't assemble itself, you know.
You're telling me.
So now we're comparing freaking IKEA furniture to standing seam? What the hell, Alex? Because if you skip steps when you're installing panels, you'll always end up with inconsistencies. You know, for example, if you install the clips before you seam the panel won't sit naturally, so it'll automatically cause oil canning. So for this last point, picture a hot air balloon. When it's deflated, lying on the ground, it's all wrinkly, and I mean, it doesn't even look like a freaking balloon. Until you start the flame up and it starts to inflate, causing outward pressure from the inside out, looking like a freaking balloon. So we can basically do the same thing with standing seam. Pressurize the panel from the inside out, much like the surface tension of that balloon. But how do we do this? You know the foam backer rod the caulking guys use? What you're gonna need is you're gonna need some tape and 1/2-inch foam backer rod. Tape this along the back side of the panel before it gets installed. And once it gets installed, that foam backer rod pushes from the inside out, kind of ballooning the middle part of the panel. Once that inside pressure occurs, it eliminates some of the oil canning on your panel. Here's the thing, even with all the right practices, oil canning can never actually be 100% eliminated. It's just the thing. Watch this video next where I show you how to protect yourself and your business from a customer rejecting the payment on the basis of oil canning. We'll see you over there.